15 books, over 300 articles. He's been editor of 4 journals, and a very long list of different associations that he has been president of. I'm going to make it very short after the presentation. We appreciate your time. And
Thank you very much.
we're going to have about half hour, so I'll give you some more.
Thank you very much. That has been great. Since morning I've been listening, and Dr. Lokande actually gave pretty good introduction to what I was going to say. So that's it for well. But also, I mean, I'm not at all anything with Ayurveda other than just basic research. I do have some experience of editing the Ayurveda Journal of Health, and initially as managing editor, now for the last few years as editor-in-chief, so I do have access to many of you, and I get to read some of the articles, and so I'm learning. But I think what I have been hearing since morning until my slides, is that there is as a basic researcher, somebody who comes from a village in India. So a lot of practices, what you were talking about here in the villages automatically happens. For example, they will eat seasonal food. Dr. Lokande was talking about a sugandhai. Dr. Lokande was talking about a sugandhai in India, whether that would be relevant here in the United States. Well, Asugandha from Balram Singh may not be exactly the same as Dr. Lokande either. So, individualized understanding, and I think in mainstream science research in biophysical chemistry, there we standardize everything. In modern science, we do not make anything unique. We make it average. Your body temperature is 98.6. My body temperature has never been 98.6. So, but we all go along, and if it was a COVID time, then I would be very stopped from boarding the plane if it was 99 or 100. So, based on that standard things, the life goes on. And what I find you are dealing with here is that you have to meet that standardized definition of what is science. And you have conflict to be having very unique and individualized, which is what normally a doctor will do. Doctors are supposed to be individualized. Nurses are supposed to make everything individualized, but we don't do that. So you have an inner conflict in how you are acting, and so that we need to move along with this. Like I said, in addition to many other things I'm associated with the Ayurveda Journal of Health, this was something that we acquired when I was as Director of Center of Scientific Studies at the University of Massachusetts. Genevieve Ryder, who has been member of NAMA for forever, she was a nurse practitioner. I really have greatest regard for nurses. I recently went to, I had a bypass about a month ago, and so I could very easily see their role. And interestingly, nurses are rated the highest in this country as a profession. The second one is great teachers. The doctors are number 3. So I think some of the doctors, they need to take a seat back seat and think about it. But it is really all of these 3 professions care about people. And so Genevieve Ryder started this journal in 2002, and we took it over in 2007. And I had given, like I said, I come from a village that to near Ayurved, so we keep our words. I've given her word that I will continue your journal, because that's what she wanted. And so we are continuing, even though I retired from the university, I still manage it. University is the publisher of it, and I urge all of you to consider writing for it. And we will try to conduct, when Diana Luri was the editor-in-chief, she used to conduct sessions in NAMA conference as to how to write articles. But anything that even if you have your own personal experience, that's good enough to write, and we will be happy to talk about that. I gave a topic about Tanmatra, and that was in August, when Aparnaji, thank you very much for inviting me, asked me. I gave a topic of Tanmatra because that is my interest. It's not because I'm an expert on it. I like to talk about something that I'm interested in. But in the meantime, the Nobel Prize was announced for chemistry. And it will be very interesting that you will be very proud that some of the ideas that have been published in this Nobel Prize, which is about metal organic framework, metal organic compounds, and a big network that can pick up a lot of other molecules, gases like carbon dioxide or water. And that's how it has become, it really came to be known in the 80s, and by now it has become so useful because of the pollution. So they got Nobel Prize. Now you would...
Pardon the interruption. There is a Cherry SUV that is parked illegally and they're ready to tow it.
It's okay.
Is it done?
No, it's okay.
Alright.
That was my 10-minute
We'll add another 5 minutes to the presentation.
So these metal organic frameworks are being used, like I said, for pollution, but also they're being used for drugs. And why am I presenting it here? They are being used as drugs because they use for drug delivery. You know, the metal organic framework can go across mucosal layer to deliver the drugs. And this is, I'm talking about because of Bhasma. We have heard about this morning about Bhasma. And that's one of the area of my own research when I became the director of Center for Indic Studies and we're working with this journal. I used to get calls, especially about Bhasma, because I was in the chemistry department. So I should do something about it. And the only thing researchers can do is do research. So I had a PhD student, this Sirisa Mukawali, finished her PhD, and she showed in her research that Bhasma is not toxic. That was a major concern, that many professors, chemists, and medical professionals are concerned about. So there is no cytotoxicity. We learned about that. But not only that, we learned about what else it is used for. It's not toxic, but what it is used for? It is used for drug delivery, and that's why I'm saying the connection. With this is also a metal, organic, might call framework or nanoparticles. So, since this is something that has been done for thousands of years ago, and but it has not been highlighted, I think Dr. Lokender's point, that you got to really learn what's going on. And you need to define your own framework. I don't mean the metal organic framework, but your own Ayurvedic framework. And it is a hard work. It's really hard work. When I see Dr. Mirajkar was talking about, so many things to do. But all of us have to really think about that in addition to, because you are really the expert. So we did all kind of mechanisms, not everything is published yet, but the point is that metal organic framework was already known for thousands of years. I'm writing an article to compare, and not everything is like Dr. Lokhande said, not every research has been done. So we need to analyze completely to be able to say something, and we have not done it. My group, I've retired from University of Massachusetts, so I don't have the dozens of great students that I had, but I still have a couple of them, and then we are working on it. We have actually analyzed the whole atomic composition of plasma, the size of it, and the technology is not that new. Technology has been used for other things also. For example, those of us who have been to Delhi, there is a pillar that doesn't get rusted, and it's because of the same technology, treat with herbal hydrocarbons. Its composition is known. We have the three-side gamete type of composition. And you can find that carbon is connected to silver. That's metal, and this is carbon. We don't know exactly the structure, what kind of thing. I tried to do NMR at that time, and it didn't work. We need to do more work. But I'm more excited now that the value to this. So anyway, I just couldn't stop myself to present to you this very exciting thing that has been going on in your field. And I am not presenting here, there is a $51 billion industry in this field. $51 billion. For all kinds of things that this can be used. These nanoparticles can be used. So I'm encouraging my village school children to learn how to make this. Because then maybe there will be a business for them. Why am I saying this? India has, not only because Ayurveda came from there, India is very rich in plants. 48,000 species of plants in India. If they were making bhasma out of it, they will have so many varieties. They can solve a lot of problems. So that is the kind of thing that you will get students excited to do more research in this field. Anyway, it is related to chemistry. The Ayurveda is related to chemistry. And Dr. Nov8 talked about Sanskrit. Sanskrit gave periodic table. The way you talk about ka, kha, ga, tha, unga, and then cha, cha, ja, the different pitches is the different periods. That's how the Mendeleev learned from a Sanskrit scholar and then made this. And it's interesting, here he even gave some names, eka aluminum, some Sanskrit names, eka boron, eka silicon, like that, trimanganese. He gave a Sanskrit name at that time because he was so impressed. Sometimes you don't understand that simple value of not calling ABCD, which is like everywhere, but in a very systematic way. So it's very interesting that I have here Om. The Om, there was, when there was the COVID going on, there were a lot of alpha, beta, delta, all kinds of stuff. When they came to very close to a word called new, they said, oh, we don't want to put new, because I would like people to think it's new. So then the next was C, XI. They said, the Chinese government objected to it. If you call it C, that would look like the president. The interesting thing is that Indian president's name was Kovind. And if you did search on Google, you will see Govind there, Govind. Even Govind, the Lord Krishna's name, Govind also was so. But Indians were sleeping. They didn't care about that. So, but anyway, here is Om, and what you see here, so they skipped Nu and C. The next was Omicron, so they said Om. And I wrote an article at that time, I wish they continued to Om, because at least they will pronounce Om. And believe it or not, they haven't gone beyond that. There's now the Om 1, Om 2, Om 3, Om 4. Sometimes that is happening. So, but here is the thing that I was talking about here, Nu, C, and then Omicron. So they are now still stuck with Omicron. But when you do, I'm not going to describe the whole study, except to tell you that there has been a study where you have to say Om and take a break and say Om, and they have found what happens, it increases your innate immunity. Om is not only just Indian name. In Christianity, I've been to church services, they call it Amen at the end. No, sorry, Amen. They call it Amen. Amen, in Mass. So it's like everybody has something to do with it. That's a very different story. I will not go into that, but I want to just go back to chemistry. And chemistry is study of matter, energy, as long as you can connect this, you can call it chemistry. It's very interesting that Vaisesika philosophy, we talked about Sankhya philosophy quite a bit. One interesting thing is atom. The word atom means individual. Same as Atma, individual. At one time, that's what they used to think. And I'll talk a little bit about that. I'm going to skip the rest of it, so many elements, and it's actually divisible. Atom is divisible, you can get other particles, including gluon and boson. I guess it got stuck here. Oh. Okay, so now this is Vaisesika philosophy, which is primary basis of Ayurveda. They have defined dravya, substance, and all this. Again, I do not have time to go into details. I do teach a course in Ayurvedic chemistry to my students in JNU, and so we go really discuss very detailed about these things. What is the value of all this? And Dr. Mokhande would be happy, and maybe he should give a talk, give a lecture to one of my students. But the point here is that this is everything affects everything. So you cannot just make a chemical and make a drug and make a target and that's it. No, everything affects everything. And so true knowledge will be what is Ayurvedic knowledge? When you give something, you're talking about everything else that goes around. The word health, do you know where the word health comes from? Holistic. The word health comes from holistic. You should claim it. You should claim it because you are the one who are integrated, not the current science people are. So I think there is when you combine everything affects everything, including abhava. Abhava, I translate that hydrophobicity. You need to keep away water, otherwise we won't be here. If there was abhava was not part of it, we won't be, because there had no hydrophobicity, no membrane, no cell, no body, no tissue, nothing. So these concepts are very great, but we need to do a lot of research there. A lot of research not just to understand, but also to create a system. Now the dravya is very interesting for me, and you will see why I am saying this. Panchabhutas, what is really interesting, time and space is part of dravya. Why dravya is defined by its activity, its function, its quality. And interestingly, there is a self, Atman, and then mind. I think Dr. Lokhandi was talking about that also. What is mind? I mean, I don't understand all of it. I just try to find something. I was so inspired that in the university, in chemistry department, believe it or not, I taught the chemistry of mind course for 15 years. And that gave me better ideas. And how it was approved, my department chair said, oh, that's psychology or philosophy, that's not chemistry. I told him, his name was Don Smith, I said, Don, if something exists, we should be able to study chemistry. He said, of course, chemistry is central science. I said, Don, do you have mind? And it took him 15 seconds to say yes. When I said, do I have mind? He said, yes. I said, do you know anybody who doesn't have mind? He said, no, that means we should teach chemistry. He said, yes. And that was the approval of the course. So, what I'm saying is Atman and mind is here, but interesting thing is time and space. In addition to Panchabhutas that I really don't understand that much even now. Here is, of course, a familiar face, but this is, if you use botulinum neurotoxin, which you probably may if you don't know the name of it. Botox is what we all know. So, Botox makes nice face versus this. The difference is 100 picogram versus 100 nanogram. 1,000-fold. What it means the space has been reduced. When you give nanogram, the space has been 1,000 times less. Can you imagine that? This is true for human beings also. This would be a nice auditorium because you don't have full. But what if you have 5,000 people? I think Dr. Aparna will be good. So that's what happened, Actually, there was a teacher in India who had a pet eat half kg of salt, and he died in the evening, by the evening. He couldn't survive. Even though salt is very important for us, but not half kg, because the space is limited. Anyway, so what I'm saying here, chemistry is mostly based on the structures. Whatever we know, and I'm very well known for my work on the structure of proteins, because everything is structure that defines. But Ayurveda is a function. The Vaidya tastes, Vaidya touches, Vaidya smells. So it's more like a function. So I call it sensory chemistry. I tried to call it for a while a sensory chemistry. And then where the sense comes from, I started asking. And that's when I started calling it Tanmatra chemistry. And this is a search, now I don't have to. So I'm right now after this. In a very traditional Indian way, although I'm teaching on one of the most modern and most advanced and most non-Indian tradition university called Jawaharlal University. I went there to school. I'm teaching this class in Jawaharlal University. They started, interestingly, chemistry, Sanskrit word is rasayan. This is a science. And I'm presenting some of the data. I have 17 students. This year I have given them full freedom to use AI. But then they have to tell me Tanmatra chemistry, which nowhere describes. So we are now understanding Tanmatra chemistry. This is one of those examples. A pineapple. 5 minutes? He said when he said 5 minutes, I can consider 10 minutes. No. So here is her research. This is her research. We are working on every student having their own research this year, because they are confused. So she has worked on the whole idea of compounds, gets to receptors, neurotransmitters, and the brain. Everything gets involved in this. I'm just trying to move faster, so I'm not going to go into detail, but you can imagine that there are molecules, and there are receptors, and there are neurotransmitters, and there are brain, and this all gets connected, and that's what Tanmatra is. Tanmatra is not just one molecule. These are the ways, the different kind of receptors that they have, and it eventually gets to the taste nerves. These are the compounds, different sugars, organic acids, phenolics, all that gets into the whole system of brain and perception. This is all part of it. So the key point here, ATP is the primary neurotransmitter released from type 2 receptors. Serotonin and GABA are mainly released by type 3 receptors. Pineapple's tingling, burning effect is due to bromelain, which is an enzyme protease, which makes the small peptides. It's like a very complex issue for you to see, be able to taste what you're considering. Oh, this is sour, and this, I don't even remember all the classification that you go through. And it's all related to getting the taste through different nerves getting into the brain. And the brain then processes this whole thing to eventually make you feel what you feel. But it has a huge amount of biochemical process going on in our body. It's not just one compound, it's not one molecule. It's a whole process. And if we study enough, I'm working on it. I'm going to try to classify it in such a way that it will be equivalent to us to understand, and we make a standard of it. But it's not going to be that easy, not going to be that fast. So, for example, fructose in a fruit eventually ends up being manganese at the end of it. And manganese has so much other things going on in your body. So when you say, well, you are prescribing some certain types of fruits for people with certain types of diseases, this is what you're doing. And the whole process goes, the man becomes a scorecard, as I see. This is all part of the game that is happening. Now this is where I'm trying to address what might be happening here. Is the Tanmatra. Why is Tanmatra? Tanmatra is coming to, I used to think that these Panchbhutas they work through Tanmatra. But Tanmatra actually makes us to Panchbhutas. It's very fascinating. And, but anyway, after that they work with Karmendriya and Gyanendriya, and you all know. But the important thing is that the Prakriti that you all work, I know you don't work exactly that Prakriti, but the Prakriti is the Purusha and Prakriti, where there is a combination of those, and then whatever we are, we are. And the Om comes here also, believe it or not, Atma Paramatma. That is, just goes across all over the society, all over the world actually. I find it to be very good idea. So where you have Ishvara, which is the Purus Vishesha, and Prakriti comes, and Jivatma is what we have in form of Atma that is in our body, goes our body. And so that's what we need to work on. This is my last slide.
I added an extra 5 minutes.
Okay, so I'm going to go very quickly. This is my idea of how I'm trying to get the Tanmatras for the rest of our surrounding and our society. So you have pranic energy, you have atom, molecule, man, mountain, and Atma, and then you have this Panchbhuta, senses, mind, and all that, and then pranic energy becomes consciousness. In the society, if you had to go, it will be self. This is social chemistry, this is universal physics, this is the manifestation that we see, and this is all connected from Tanmatra to the Vesti, going to the environment, and to Samasti. And this is in thermodynamics, this is known as system and surrounding. That is the fundamental basis of thermodynamics. I am the system, the rest of you are surrounding. The rest of anything ever is surrounding. And it's in Dr. Lokhandya was talking about that we should have Sanskrit knowledge. Here is the Vedic knowledge of the same thing, yet Pandita Brahmanya. But in me is everywhere. You have to just like. And these are working in circles. Thank you very much.
We will again ask if you would email your questions to info for the Ayurveda.
I normally take handwritten letters.
And donations.
I know this.
Thank you, Doctor. I appreciate it. Thank you. Dr. Kumar and Peter, you could come up for the next panel. Mr. Avinash. Dr. Avinash.